Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce, and we've just finished round 9. Sauce, there's a complete and utter separation in the ladder now. You've got Collingwood, Melbourne, Brisbane and Port Adelaide who have separated from the rest of the pack and round out the top 4.
Yeah, hey Pez, it's very interesting because I looked at the start of the round and I thought, this is a pretty straightforward 9 out of 9 week and not a couple of upsets. And you're right, there are definitely teams separating themselves from the pack. There's definitely some teams that are in that rebuilding phase, timely with the NBA lottery being drafted today. Some teams that are definitely leaning towards the old tank, the Harley Reid Cup coming up this weekend. But a really interesting round 9, Pez.
Yeah, and it started off on the Friday night with one of the biggest upsets with the way the Richmond Footy Club have been playing. They came out and beat Geelong by 4 goals. It was pretty much in that first quarter when it was 6 goals straight to Richmond to 2 goals 7. Geelong just couldn't get the ball through the goals there and just kept kicking those behinds. And Cochin on the night ended with 3 goals. Martin kicked 4, so 7 between them when Geelong only scored 78 points is huge.
Martin's been looking like he's about to explode in the last 3 weeks, Pez, and it's disappointing that he did it against Geelong, but it was great as a non-Geelong supporter, if you were watching, to see Dustin Martin back to his best. Mustard. It was great to see 4 goals, in control, injected into that midfield. They kept that sort of jump on Geelong, that 6 goals straight in the first quarter to 2-7, and they couldn't get back the Cats, and no danger, no Geelong. Scott was out there making excuses after about all the injuries and 6 injuries, but Richmond were in the exact same place. Richmond played well. They played to the occasion, and big upset in the terms of the footy world.
That's the thing with Scott as well. He'll come and complain about the injuries in the young side afterwards, but he's never going to do that before the game.
Yeah, he's a typical TikTok punter, isn't he?
Jump
on after the fact.
Trent Cochin, new role up forward, snapped a couple of goals, 3 straight, so that'll definitely get him to game number 300. They were going to anyway, of course, with either as a sub or getting subbed out early, but maybe he's found a role in that Tigers side, and if they can keep form like that and Tom Lynch can come back healthy, maybe they could sneak in and try and fight for the 8 this year.
I mean, they're playing the way we sort of predicted at the start of the year, how they are around the ground. They're utilising the Richmond of old, coming off that back line, really going forward. They really are just missing Lynch, a key forward up there to be able to get some wins on the board, and as you said, maybe sneak into that 8, maybe sneak in that top 4.
Well, I don't know about top 4, but 2.5 games outside the 8 at the moment, which is huge. And they've dropped games, against Gold Coast that they really struggled with. So not too great from Richmond to start, but we'll see if they can turn it. They've got Dreamtime at the G on Saturday night, which is massive for both clubs, Essendon and Richmond. So we'll see how they go there. The double header, Sauce, how did you like it? You had West Coast and Gold Coast, I guess, starting midway through the first game.
It was good for me, who was a bit upset as a Geelong supporter, losing that, because I could turn the TV over straight away and cheer on my Gold Coast 40-plus bet. But it's obviously to make up some room on the Mother's Day and try and hide the terrible team of West Coast. And I didn't love it, I'll be honest, but it was good that it didn't really affect us being a Perth game. It would suck if you were over in Perth, because it would really clash in terms of the peak of the game in the Geelong and Richmond. It'd
suck if there were two sides competing for finals, because you'd want to really watch it. So I think next year we'll get Thursday night footy every season anyway, and that game will be relegated to the Sunday, and we'll get some other contenders on Thursday and a Friday night. You're heading to Saturday, and you had Fremantle go 3 goals down early against Sydney and just came back and looked in control and looked really, really good. And then Sydney, who just since that massive 90-point loss to Geelong, just looked down in the dumps.
Sydney realistically it's not uncommon to have a big thumping in a grand final and then, come out and miss the finals, Pez, but Sydney really look like doing that. They look a shell of themselves from last year. I know they've got a few injuries there, but their ball movement became stagnant in that second quarter. Fremantle, obviously a team that likes to lock down other teams, but they were able to score at will in that last quarter, and there was multiple forwards there that just were basically uncontested in that forward line. It was really concerning for Sydney after they were pretty gallant against Collingwood the week before. So really, really disappointing, especially playing at home.
Look, I feel Fremantle have really struggled in recent weeks. They got a freebie over Hawthorn where maybe they got some confidence with winning every quarter in that game. They kicked 1 goal at quarter time, came out and kicked 6 in the second quarter. Then they kicked 5 in the third quarter and finished off with 4 in the last quarter. And that's unlike Fremantle this year. So I don't know if they've just gone, you know what, stuff it. We're just going to roll the dice and move it forward. Or is their game plan and their structures actually starting to work?
I mean, it is... I actually disagree, Pez. I think that the first couple of weeks, Fremantle were trying to play similar to what they did last year. And as of round 3 and 4, they were experimenting with the new game plan. 5, 6, and 7 moving forward. I think they've really shifted that. They've gone back to that side to side with that sort of injection into up the middle, hitting the forwards. They're still got to get that forward structure right, but I think actually it's been the trend the last couple of weeks. And as a Geelong supporter, Fremantle this week, I'm really worried because I think that they're starting to really manage teams up the middle and get good forward entries. If they, they had multiple, they weren't really playing against much in that forward line, but they had multiple marks in that last quarter. That was really concerning for a team coming up against Fremantle.
Yeah, well, I guess you were right there. So down in Tasmania, this is a huge news of the day because Port Adelaide thumped North Melbourne down there by 70 points, and North Melbourne, after winning the first 2 games of the season, have just looked like North Melbourne of old. But Alistair Clarkson has stood down due to his own mental health and wants to focus on himself. And Brett Ratton will be the caretaker, the first person to be the caretaker coach at 3 different clubs.
It can't get worse for North Melbourne, can it? I mean, their highlight of the season ended after round 2 when they were 2-0. Like that, their biggest win of the season was against Fremantle, and that was the start and end of their season. It's disappointing that North Melbourne have been left in the lurch like this. As a podcast that constantly gets on the back of North Melbourne.
I've been nice this year.
It's disappointing that this has happened to them because they would have set themselves up for Alistair Clarkson. He obviously built in a different thing there. We've seen the TikToks, the Instagram, the culture-changing events that he's doing, and now he's gone. Now, did he get the tap on the shoulder from the AFL? We'll never know, but it's really disappointing for North Melbourne.
Well, that's the thing. We may never know depending on how they run this, and it's a trial, like a witch hunt, and we don't know what's happening. We don't know if we ever will. But like he dropped Cunnington last week. You've got LDU, who was spoken about as a possible Brownlow medalist for this year, who's just dropped away a bit, and he's been injured back and forth, and he's injured again. So they're just not looking too good at all, North Melbourne. And with the Tassie licence named, they've got nowhere else to turn. They got a freebie right up to Gold Coast years back, over a decade ago. They didn't take it. They wanted to fight. They wanted to stay here, and they haven't done anything since. So they can't relocate them to Tassie, so maybe Northern Territory.
They were talking again today about a potential priority pick for North Melbourne. Like,
why did they
North
deserve
Melbourne
it?
can't be a charity.
Teams don't deserve it when they're the ones that have stuffed up their list management. Their personnel has been a big one, and the people in charge of the club have just made really poor decisions. And I know they were coming out of debt. They were working on Arden Street, and they got all that, and the AFL gave them big handouts, and they've come out of that. But then on field is where everyone looks, and on field has not been great.
No, not great at all. And Port Adelaide were fantastic in this matchup. They had 14 individual goal kickers, which is pretty incredible, especially in Tasmania, which is one-way traffic sometimes with that wind, and the weather conditions, while sunny, weren't great. But it's disappointing that North Melbourne, their on-field now starts to collide with their off-field, because the one thing this year they had been sort of overcoming was that off-field drama, because everything was sort of set in stone, and now they're back to square one.
Exactly right. And Melbourne just did what they needed to do. They went through. They beat Hawthorn by 54 points. Hawthorn didn't score, only scored 1 goal to halftime. So Melbourne were really on, and then Melbourne took the foot off the accelerator, just got through there. The other game, which was really close early and low scoring, was Essendon versus Brisbane up at the Gabba, and then Brisbane just turned it on, and Joe Danaher turned it on, kicking 6.
Yeah, I mean, he pops up against nobody, doesn't he, Joe Danaher? But
Well, he's ex-club, you know, a little bit of a script, a little bit of storyline.
Oh, please. We talked about this last week about Essendon not really having a key defender to be able to stop, and it was just picking one of the 4 potential forwards to shine for Brisbane. I mean, last week I predicted Bruce Pez. That's how bad Essendon was.
Well, I have said that Brisbane are the hardest team to choose who's going to kick the goals. The only one you can really... you can't ever rely on him, but Charlie Cameron, if he's playing against a team that, you know, leak goals to small forwards. So
well, that's because he's now actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, Pez, because he's really gone back to a traditional small forward and just picking up the scraps out the back. He's no longer, you know, being that sort of lead-up small forward like he was a couple of years ago.
It doesn't have to be.
It's definitely benefiting, and it's sort of signs that they've got that forward line right.
Well, Gunston as well, with the experienced campaigner in there, has
Definitely
really
makes a difference.
helped that as well. The game of the round for mine was Carlton Bulldogs, and this is, as I say that before the game, and then during the game you watched it. 2 horrible, not horrible sides, but the way they played footy on Saturday night was quite horrible. Carlton 1 goal 4. Sat on 10 points at halftime and just butchered the ball, not only inside forward 50, but when they were actually kicking for goal as well, trying to snap from 45 metres out, a couple of players trying to snap on their opposite foot, hitting the belly of the ball. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I've always said, Sauce, let the player decide. You can go for a drop punt wherever you want. You can go for a snap when you feel comfortable. But if I was coach, I'd be making a rule. There's no 40 plus metres. You're not snapping. You need to kick a drop punt unless you're tight on the boundary line, and you do not snap on your opposite foot unless you're 15 metres close to goal.
I'm going to echo this, but in a different sort of direction. We talked about this a couple of weeks on the podcast. It's like golf. It's like basketball free throws. You have a routine for different shots. If you mark the ball at a certain angle, whatever, you should know the moment you turn around what you're doing. And the problem is they are sitting there deciding as they're kicking in, and no wonder they hit belly up.
Great point.
How they hit belly up all the time. If you get a golfer and they're going to the 100 metres out or whatever, they know exactly what they're going to. But the AFL footballers, they're sitting there deciding, and they're using their 30 seconds to work out what freaking they're going to kick. It's so terrible for AFL football players to do that.
I can picture a player going back, like he took the mark and he goes back and he turns sideways, and then he thinks, oh, maybe not the snap from here. And then he starts to go back a little bit, but then he goes, oh, no, I will do the snap, and goes back to the snap position. You need to mark the ball, and you need to do what Ben Brown does. You're either running back to go to your mark, or you're standing on the side and bang, I'm going to go. The other thing is when players go too quickly, they've just run 100 metres, got the mark over the back. Take your 30 seconds. You cannot get smothered because of the rules. You've got the player 10 metres away. Take a couple of deep breaths, use your time, and go through your motion.
Geelong supporter here, Pez, obviously. Watch Jeremy Cameron every time he gets a goal. He pushes the ball twice, and as he's pushing the ball, he's deciding what he's doing, and then he goes through that routine. He's got a very set routine for around the body, and he's got a very set routine for his drop punt, from 50 or 40 out or whatever. And no wonder he's one of the best in the league at it. Have a system, follow through your system, and you know what? If you miss, you miss. You can't argue that because, it's bad luck.
There's always external pressure. There's always crowd pressure. There's always going to be crowd noise.
But when you don't know, and you're literally seeing the players flip the ball 7 or 8 times, and then on the last second, sometimes the lace is not even facing the roof, or if you're at Marvel, but it's not good enough for an AFL footballer. And we said it last week, bad kicking is bad football. And this was a terrible game for 3 quarters. It was, Piers.
It was a terrible game all round. Yeah, I'll say. And then Carlton actually hit the lead, and then Bulldogs had a goal. And then Carlton hit the lead again. Curnow holds the jumper and goes, yes, we are Carlton, we are coming. Within 20 seconds, the Bulldogs had the lead back.
And then they piled on 4 goals from that. And it was like Carlton had a sigh of relief, like, oh, we're up, we're going to win this game. And then they just dropped everything. And the Bulldogs just went bang, 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 bang.
I can believe
it because it's Carlton.
I don't know how Carlton fans go to the footy and sit through this shit. They have not been a contender since the year 2000 maybe, when they were vying for top 4 spots. They haven't been anywhere near winning a grand final or competing for a premiership in 23 years. Yeah,
and I've been such an advocate for the last 2 years, Pez, including this year, for Carlton, because I think that they're talented. I think that they've got enough structure there. Everyone, you've heard it through all the media, but seriously, what is going on? Like, how can they not be, one, competitive for 3/4 of football? Two, how can they not be winning half of these games? Like, they are struggling, Perry. Like, they're struggling.
Well, they are, and Tim English, he was the answer for the Bulldogs. He was really great around the grounds, and they end up with a 20-point win. And Carlton, with that forward line and that midfield, maybe we need to stop talking about that forward line and that midfield, and they need to do something really quickly. And if it's their coach doesn't have any structure and he doesn't have a game plan, and you realise that, get him out, get someone else in. Like you have to change something. If you think you have the list to compete, you missed out on finals last year from an unmissable position, and now you're sitting outside the finals after 9 rounds. You think you're not using the hunger and the fight from last year? It's ridiculous, and it would be embarrassing to be a Carlton supporter.
Well said, and enough we've spoken about that terrible performance for both teams and realistically Carlton. And, hopefully they bounce back this week for Carlton supporters' sake and for football and for Voss's sake, but I just don't see...
They play Collingwood top of the table as well, so we'll see what happens. Stranger things have happened, but Sunday was Mother's Day. Hopefully all the mothers out there enjoyed their Mother's Day, got spoiled, and it was really special for them. Adelaide Crows and their mothers really enjoyed this one because Adelaide, from the outset, straight away, absolutely demolished St Kilda. Demolition job over in the first quarter, just like when Adelaide played Carlton over there, and they ended up winning by 52 points against the Saints. So Ross Lyon, he couldn't get the job done with his defensive structures there.
They're slowly becoming such a great side to watch, Adelaide, and this was a big scalp that they sort of needed. Maybe a softball scalp because obviously it was St Kilda,
a pretend scalp.
But at home, everything sort of aligned for them. A Sunday afternoon, weather was great. Taylor Walker 5 goals, Isaac Rankine, Pedlar, Fogarty. That forward line is so electric.
Jeez, I love watching Pedlar with Shelley.
It's so good to watch, and they really took apart St Kilda. St Kilda are a team that this year have really kept teams low in scoring, were no match for the Arsenal of Adelaide, and they just scored at will and pretty easily at times too.
Yeah, way too easily, and St Kilda just, at quarter time it was like, this is done. We're out of the top 4, and we need to not repeat what we did last year when we had a really good start to the season. So interesting to see how they bounce back. Collingwood did what they needed to do on Mother's Day and got a 65-point win against the Giants.
Yeah, pretty stock standard stuff there for Mother's Day. Probably the biggest story out of that is Bo McCurry's mother, Julie McCurry. Did you see this during the week? Getting the pre-game speech that they let.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there going, wow.
Sitting there loving it, but I think that was really, really cool. What's that?
Now that you mentioned the mother, Romy Bryan. BT, did you see Samson Ryan's mother?
How's the first time she met the girlfriend too?
First time she met the girlfriend, and I thought Samson Ryan was coming over when he came over to pull her away. Like, this is embarrassing.
I think that's what he was.
But he was like,
no,
this is all right. This is just, must be how they are. She's from Queensland. She was very, very happy, and the girl's like, yeah, she's plastered, but she's really nice.
Yeah, he BT really honed in on that one, and he saw absolute gold as soon as he got it.
He didn't even have to. She went up to him at the start, yeah. He didn't even have to do any work for that, and that was TV gold.
It was great. But this week, we're getting into the bet review. I want you to go out there and make us proud, Pez. Believe in yourself. Believe in each other. Chase that ball. Tackle hard. Win those contests. Do you know what I'm doing?
Yeah, the McQuarrie mother speech. I interrupted you with the Samson Ryan mother, which was a better story.
It was fantastic.
It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
Well, here we come down to the bet review source, and on Twitter at Behind the Bound, you can jump on, and there is a link to our Google Doc, and you can see every single round, every single bet that we put on, whether it be on the podcast or whether it be a live bet when we throw out. And we do try and take advantage of, bonus special source a lot on this show with the same game multis, and then try and win that back if there is a loss there. So we will endeavour to continue to do that, and everything will be up there ready to go. Speaking of that, I had my first losing round in 5-round source, which was disappointing. Ended up losing 2.9 units. Started off on the Friday night okay because I got my same game multi, my $3.30 hit with the West Coast Gold Coast game. We had Witherden 15 plus. I said he took the kick in, so it was really good. Rao 15 plus by half time. Kelly 25 plus, and Lukosius 2 goals. He kicked them both in that second quarter. But Tim Kelly, he's just everywhere with the ball. A little bit of a sweat ended with 26. Hopper, unfortunately, would have killed so many people's multis.
So many.
On the weekend. He finished on 10 disposals. He got injured early in the second quarter with a calf. Didn't look right, got subbed out in the third quarter. So if he did get subbed out in the second quarter, if it was with Sportsbet, they might have done a justice refund, which they did for another player during that week, but it didn't happen. So we go from there. All other bets there at behind the bound, minus 2.9. So for the season, a small profit of 2.17 unit source. So still in the positive, but just treading water at the moment, and need to get a move along and build that bank.
You definitely do build that bank. And last week I said that, there was no way I was going to end up down because I didn't put down, I was up 12 units last week, and I said there was no way I was going to go down because I didn't put 12 units down.
You put about 300 bets on by the looks of this spreadsheet.
I put down 13 units, and I was pretty confident that I was going to get up, and that's exactly what I did. I really loved my read in the West Coast Gold Coast game. I said that, the minus 21.5, and I've said this all year, anytime you can get West Coast under minus 30.5 of the opposing team, you jump on it. I jumped on the Gold Coast. That saluted. Just missed out on Fiorini. He was everywhere in that second half, but not to be.
20 plus. He only had 6 at half time.
Yeah, it was not looking good. And someone on TikTok jumped on and said, "Oh, this is not looking good." And then the fourth quarter, in bed watching the last bit, I thought I was looking pretty good. But it was a great round for me. I ended up 13 units what I placed, and I returned 2.74. So not a great unit, but I still got 2 sets of bonus bets to redeem myself this week. For the year, 62 units I have placed, returned 15.39. So another winning round there.
You'll take away from that. I want you to speak to me about a couple of things. Your man Van Ruin, 2+ goals again. He only kicked the one, but he
Puntosaurus, we're off him. We're not doing him anymore. Puntosaurus jumped on Twitter as well.
I'm sitting on the outskirts here, and Puntosaurus is tweeting us, and you and Puntosaurus tweeting, having a little love story together.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I'm just thinking, this young bloke Van Ruin. It's easy for me to say after the fact he doesn't kick the 2, of course, but go from there. No, but the thing I really do want you to tell me about is your Adelaide versus St Kilda bet, because I saw that when you posted that to Twitter, and looking at it during the second quarter, it was like, unless there is a major injury here and one of these players is subbed off, this is not missing.
Well, we said a couple of weeks ago, before the Port Adelaide game, that anytime you get St Kilda, they are the number 1 team for giving away opponents' disposals. So if you play St Kilda, you rack up the pill. And in this game, Adelaide racked up almost 500 more, not more disposals, but 500 disposals in total with St Kilda as well. Dawson to get over 26.5. He almost had that at half time. Absolutely dominant, and the bookies did not adjust for thinking that St Kilda were going to contain them. Hinge I had for 15 plus. Early in the year you said, who the hell's Hinge? And he missed on 14. That was the only time he's missed for the whole year, and absolutely been dominating since then. Mate, he almost had 20 at half time as well.
A different young player.
Hinge and Shoal I had earlier. Yeah, Hinge and Shoal earlier.
Shoal's the one that missed, not Hinge.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Get on. Your Adelaide players, mate. Come on.
Get on to Smith.
Call me out.
He had 20 plus. You're ruining my bet. When you win a couple of units, you can come speaking. So shut up. Earlier.
You didn't want to speak about it. I had to ask you.
I was getting there. You rudely interrupted, trying to jump on my winners because you didn't have any. So Dawson had 26.5. Hinge had 15 plus, and Smith had 20 as well. This basically saluted midway through the third quarter. I was absolutely rolling in it, and I saw on Twitter there was a range of people that were jumping all over Dawson 25 plus. He has come in a heap, but that is where the money was, Pez, and that was where my big units were, because I had 3.4 was the odds, 2 units, returned profit of 4.80. I loved it.
Yeah, so where do you sit after 9 rounds?
After 9 rounds, I'm sitting 15.39 units up. Absolutely loving it, because we say
beautiful.
We say that anywhere between 10, 15 units, you're in the right spot, and anywhere from a 20% ROI.
Well, it depends what time of the season, but you look at the ROI, you're sitting at nearly 25%. So a quarter return on your money is really, really good. So anywhere over 10% on the ROI is very good in my eyes.
Yeah, well, in my eyes too. And I give you a hot tip: it's about to get even better.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Bex with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I
straight into things, Pez. Let's get these specials over and done with so I can tell everyone about all the winners I've got.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang.
Well, it's the opposite of special this week. It's not very special because
I was about to boo you then, and I was going to be called racist and terrible names, so I'm not going to do that.
You shouldn't do that. Hey, there was more booing last
I
round than
know, there was so more.
in any other round I can remember, but that's probably because it was prevalent in the front of our minds. Sportsbet, it's round 9, and we know they love to push the promos early in the year, and now I was hoping they just kept going, just kept eking it out. And they've it looks like it's not out yet. So it could come out a little bit later, but it's definitely not out yet. It is Thursday night. It's sitting around 10 p.m. Sauce, so it's usually out by now because we've got a couple of bets on the Friday night. So disappointing to see from Sportsbet, but I guess it's that they're a business and their strategy Sauce. You know what they're doing, yeah? They're trying to entice the punters to do their same-game multis on a Friday night, bang, 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 and then they've taken it away. But they've still got money left in their accounts and they want to still do the same game multis and not have that bonus. So we move over to tab 3+ leg same game multi or 5+ leg same game multi. Up to 2 legs can fail. $1.10 minimum odds and $2 total for the whole bet. Ladbrokes have the 3+ leg same game multi, but only one per day. So be careful about the Saturday and the Sunday. They've also got the mega multi if you're head-to-head bets on AFL. If you've got 4+ and 1 leg fails, you can get money back there. Neds have the early payout, and I had to search through, and it takes me longer now because I actually had to put bets on, but they've got the same game multi cover token, which is a little bit ridiculous. But that's what I found, and that's what I like.
Yeah, I like that. I don't like the fact that Sportsbet has removed the free money, but you forgot to mention BossBet. They still have theirs. Friday night, free hit.
No.
4 legs, same game multi, money back, even if everything fails.
I'm not making an account with BossBet.
And Saturday night, BossBet.
No.
Same thing, just the Friday and Saturday night games. Not very boss-like on you, Pez?
No, I don't know.
You don't know? I just told you.
Not gonna trust them.
You've already been banned off 12 different things. It's not make it unlucky.
Well,
13.
sometimes it's not worth putting your account details in, putting your card in, making a deposit, winning the first bet, and then getting an email saying we're banned. And then what do? You just close the account.
I'll just leave it open.
Yeah, of course. You probably leave money in there as well.
I'm still waiting for PointsBet. They've got 40 cents of mine that I'm just going to leave it there forever until they give me my bonuses back. All right, let's get on to Sir Doug Nicholls Round. This is great. This has evolved over the last couple of years, and it's one of the rounds that the AFL is really starting to do right. It's allowed an opportunity for the industry to be able to celebrate and acknowledge all the and thank all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander players, volunteers, administrators, umpires, fans, past, present, and really acknowledge the contribution that they do not only to the game but to our wonderful country. So it's a great round. The AFL has really jumped on board. Originally there was like 2 or 3 teams that did Indigenous jerseys. Now all of them do it.
Oh yeah,
and there are some absolute crackers. Before we get into
that's
it,
one of my favourite things about it.
Well, before we get into it, what are some of your top 3 jerseys? I don't know if you've question without notice. I'm sure you've looked at them.
Yeah, I don't mind Fremantle's one. It's got a couple of things. You've really got to read into the story of it as well. I don't have it in front of me, but the one with the turtles towards the bottom, and they've got like the sash with the purple and the white. It looks really cool. You've got St Kilda's one that really stands out because they've changed from the white in the middle to the yellow, and then they've got the black, yellow, and the red. I assume to represent the Aboriginal flag. So. That looks really cool as well. Which ones are you liking?
I really like Port Adelaide's one. I like, they've changed their name. It's called, and I'm going to apologise if I butcher this, but I'll give it my best crack. Yarabuki, which is Port Adelaide. They've changed their name for the round, for this round and next round, as well as a couple other sides. But, the big bit of an FU to Collingwood there with the big magpie sitting on their jersey. Wings are spread. It looks really cool because it's adapted the green, the teal from their other jersey. It looks seamless and effortless. I love that. I like the colours of Naram, Melbourne side, of course. The light blue is really cool. It's something that we don't see on a lot of jerseys. And then, possibly Possibly Essendon's. I like the idea of the sash being there and the big bird across it. It sort of looks like a bomber, but it's the design on it's really cool.
Not bad.
But they're all fantastic and they all have a great story. Jump on the AFL website and have a look because the story and the meaning and the way they've involved the Indigenous communities around those clubs is fantastic.
Yeah, just scrolling through now. Geelong have a clash one as well. I like the dark Geelong one. The white one, still really cool, but I think the dark colour looks a little bit better. Adelaide's one is really cool, just looking at that now with the dot painting and the symbolisation and the representation there. I'm not sure about Brisbane with they've kept the Lions separate in theirs, in the middle, the Brisbane Lions, and they've got everything telling the story on the outside. It just looks a little bit out of place to me, but yeah, not one to judge.
Not one to judge. And telling about a story, let's get into the round. And starting off the Sir Doug Nicholls Round is an absolute. It's going to be. I've heard Stevie J this week talk on a podcast about the game of the round, game of the year. But then he thought about the game of the century, which is absolute rubbish.
What?
But yep. And to commemorate Sir Douglas Nicholls Round, I can't even say it, Pez. Sir Nicholas Douglas Round. We get on.
We've gone backwards.
We've gone backwards. I'm SC Rugland because I'm so worried about pronouncing these names. They've changed the names Port Adelaide and Melbourne, so they're going to be going for the next two rounds as Yadabuki and Nam. So Yadabuki is Port Adelaide. They come in as outsiders at $2.25 and Nam is $1.63. Favourites, the line is -6.5 and the total game points is 164.5. This would be a really good game. Yadabuki have been the last 6 games, Pez, on a winning streak, and Melbourne absolutely been pretty dominant since that upset in round, I think it was 2. They've been both looking pretty good. They've shuffled things around in terms of their offense. They're really attacking both these teams now. I think Yadabuki are going to actually beat Yam this week.
Here we go. All right.
And I'm interested to
looking
hear your
forward
thoughts
to
about
hearing
it.
what you were saying, but very big news on the in front with Christian Salem coming back in for Melbourne. So just be aware that he is going to be playing there somewhere around halfback, and if you've got a player that you really like for disposals back there, just know that Salem might be one of those that takes it. And last year he was taking a lot of kick-ins as well. So if you've got a player that you put in for 15 plus and he takes the kick-ins all the time, Salem is a very good kick of the footy. So he could be trusted with that. Port Adelaide, Darcy Byrne-Jones comes in, but the big one is Scott Lysett for me.
Huge.
So Teakle has been doing a decent job in the ruck for Port Adelaide over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But Scott Lysett is, after getting dropped early in the year, comes back in for Teakle to play against Gawn and Grundy. So they're trying to combat their dominance with that. So the matchup is next level. This is one of the hardest tips of the season so far, I think. $1.70 Melbourne were before. They've come into $1.63 after the teams, which I guess is Salem and McDonald. They've got an extra forward up there. I'm not
It's probably
too sure.
the inclusion of Scotty Lysett as well, a prominent ruck.
Yeah, but I don't know why Melbourne would be coming in after that. But I think I might tip Melbourne. I'm not too sure. I do my tips on a Friday afternoon when the game's on a Friday. So I'm just going with Neds with a bonus token here. I'm hoping for a close game, and I've just gone 4 legs, and I've gone alternates. Melbourne plus 25.5 because I think if they lose, hopefully they don't get flogged. So I've just gone Melbourne 25.5, Port Adelaide plus 38.5. Over 141.5, so the line sits around 161 there, so 20 less, and under 201.5. So unless it gets out of hand and they're just flowing in goals there at Adelaide Oval, I think it'll be somewhere around the 160, 170, so hopefully it hits the middle there. That's $2.01. I've used a bonus token with Neds on that.
You're right. It's one of those 50-50 sort of games. You have to sort of do a little bit more analysis. The sides have come out. They've included a ruck, Port Adelaide, and it's definitely something that has been mentioned. Hinckley's mentioned that he's a bit worried about the combination of Melbourne's ruck. So it'll be interesting how this game pans out. I don't have any real stats to back it. I've really been liking Port Adelaide. We talked last week about them shifting their defense from one of the last in the league to number 1, while still keeping top 5 in offense. And Melbourne, we know, are a team that have been quite dominant. They possess a lot of the ball. They go forward a heap. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. I believe that Port Adelaide will really thrive Friday night Adelaide, 5-game winning streak. I'm going a little bit of vibes there, Pez. So I'm going a 3-leg same game multi with Tab. 1 leg fails, I get my money
Can I
back.
guess one of them?
Go for it.
Horn Francis again?
Nah, no, you're wrong. So stop interrupting me, you loser. All right. You've taken it off. You're out. All right. Well, anyway, I'll talk to the fans of TikTok. Port Adelaide to win. As I said, I don't really have any stats to back it up. 5 straight at home. Got the vibes. Friday night. I think that salutes. And I've gone with an alternate line. Plus 46.5 for Port Adelaide. So realistically, that's a bit of insurance there for the extra leg. I have to be over $1.10, so that one sat at $1.11, which I was pretty surprised at, to be honest. And then the third leg, and the one that sort of I've got some stats to back up, is Melbourne really give up the pill a lot to opposite teams' defenders, and especially the mid-sized defenders. Last week, Mitchell for Hawthorn, he averages 15. He got 27 against Melbourne. The week before, Powell, he as a mid-defender, he averages about 20. He got 25. The week before, Sheasel averages about 26. He got 30. So my stats sort of back it up. You can go all the way back if you want, but mid-sized defenders against Melbourne get a lot of the pill. I've gone with Dan Houston to get 20 or more disposals. Done it 6 out of the last 9, and the last 5 weeks all in wins. So I like that. 2 units, $3.20 with Tab.
He was paying about $1.54 when I saw that.
Yeah.
Is that what you got him at?
$1.55, and I got him at 55, so a little bit more.
Yeah, it looked like he the odds say that he's not going to hit it, because if 20 plus and you're definitely going to hit it, Sportsbet usually go the $1.15, $1.20, $1.25. To be all the way at $1.25 with those stats is a little bit scary to me. A little bit something. What's going on there?
There's a range of, mid-sized defenders that you could pick, and that's where it is. And I guess the bookies have Melbourne winning, so that obviously the defenders, they for some reason when they think
down there,
but they always do. So for some reason when they think that a team is going to win, they have the defenders down a little bit, which actually makes no sense because the ball's going to be down there, especially a side like Port Adelaide that are top 4 in defence and defending the inside 50s.
No, well, we'll see how you go. I heard you had the because obviously I wasn't with the headset.
Yeah,
but
you stormed off.
Okay,
it's a bit rough.
Oh,
I don't know why you're storming off. You should listen to all the advice, you loser. You're down 2 units.
No, you mean up 2 units on the season. We're talking about overall profit, aren't we?
Oh yeah, overall profit.
You got to be talking about long-term profit.
So how many units are you up for the season?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, cool. So shut up. All right,
Mate,
mate, you need to stick around and listen.
Last 6 seasons though, we're on track.
Stop living in the past. All right. So
you're living there as well. You profited
literally
the last
every
6
stat we
seasons.
pull out is about the past.
You profited the last 6 seasons as well. True.
The podcast is we're last 6 seasons. We probably don't mention that enough. Last 6 seasons in profit.
Last 6 seasons.
The old point to the camera. All right. I felt like a weird little anchor. And now we throw
I saw
to-
you do it. I copied you.
You did. You look like a flog. At least you were here for introduce the next game.
I'll stay for the next one.
All right, North Melbourne. Well, maybe you won't stay for the next one. North Melbourne taking on Sydney. North Melbourne outsiders at $6, the biggest for the round. $1.12 favourites are the Swans after a really lackluster month, realistically, in season. Minus 38.5 is the line. Over under 172.5. There is so many questions about this game, with North Melbourne obviously having a caretaker coach for the game. Sydney really being out of form. A whole lot of injuries. This game is for me danger.
Yeah,
Well, steer clear of this one for me.
And the reason it's danger is because that price sauce, $1.12. How can you trust a Sydney side
How?
at $1.12? What's the line? What's the line live
Minus
line?
38.5.
38.5. So yeah, it'll be around the 40 points, or it'll stay around 38 to 40. I just can't trust them either. You've got LDU, who's out injured, and Cameron Zurhaar, who's out injured, who I would say are 2 pretty important players for North Melbourne. A hell of a lot of changes. And then Sydney playing away from home. They usually play Marvel Stadium well, but they're not in form. I'd back Sydney to win, but I wouldn't be putting any of my hard-earned down. So that's a big cross from me. I should have walked away in that game. I would love to talk about the Bulldogs in Adelaide, though.
Okay, well, I'm steering clear with this one. If anything, I'd probably be going, looking at your goals for Sydney. If the script plays out the way Sportsbet and all the other betting agencies have it, Sydney win easy. North Melbourne give away a lot of goals to key forwards for the opposition. Maybe Franklin finds some form, 390, some good money. Isaac Heaney, 525. He definitely is finding some value there.
Well, if you've got it up.
$14, Will Hayward, 14. I like that one a lot.
For what?
For most goals.
for most goals. What's he for 2? Or do you don't have that?
I can get
on
it up
hand?
if you stall for me for a little bit.
Give me 2+ for him, and give me. I want to know Nick Larkey 2+ and 3+.
Nick Larkey for 2+ is $1.28. It's no money at all. Will Hayward $2.35. Lance Franklin $1.31. So no money at the 2 value. It's
Sydney been struggling with key defenders, so I was saying maybe he'll.
You 3 or more goals. Nick Larkey $2 and Franklin $2.05. So not worth it at
Steer
all.
clear. Let's go to the next one.
Let's get on to the next one. As you said, Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide. You really wanted to talk about this one. $1.51 are the Doggies' favourites. $2.51 outsiders are the Crows. -10.5 is the line. Over under 162.5. Pez, the Dogs were pretty disappointing last week whilst getting a win. Adelaide were extremely impressive. I'm a little bit surprised that Western Bulldogs firmed so much. I have to think that's the Marvel home ground advantage.
Yeah, you'd think it'd have to be. The Bulldogs have played at that ground more than any other club. They did lose in round 6 of 2022 against the Crows by a solitary point, but then the previous season, towards the end of the year, they beat the Adelaide Crows there as well. So they play the Adelaide Crows here. So the Crows will play their 3rd game at Mars Stadium. And I'm looking somewhere at the unders because I know the weather at the moment is really cold, and not that the cold or hot makes it any different, but the wind down in Ballarat, that stadium isn't fully covered either. So it can be a little bit different for players going down there. So Last game played was round 10, 2022, where the Bulldogs, it was 106 to Gold Coast 87. So there was 193 points scored in that game. But the previous ones before that, 125, 161, 129, and 127. So what I've done is I've gone on the unders, and I've tried to put it together in a lads same game multi here. So I've just gone the straight line at 161.5. I'm going under that. I'm also putting an insurance leg going under 202.5. And then I've put the Bulldogs team points at under 85.5. Now, they have to kick 13 or 14 goals to get over 85.5. And down at Ballarat, it doesn't look like the history shows that happens. So it did, Bulldogs against Gold Coast, but Gold Coast had to travel down. They're used to the sun and they've gone to a cold Ballarat. It's a little bit different there. So I'm just going with that. 3 legs. I don't have the price with me, so I'll get that.
Jesus Christ.
Shit, that's
when
bad.
you walked off, Pez, you didn't want to chase that up. But while you're finding that, we don't even worry about that one because it's going to be a loser anyway. But we'll get on to my one. I've been really impressed with Adelaide. They had a really impressive win last week against the Saints. As I mentioned, the Western Bulldogs were pretty poor against Carlton, and if Carlton could have strung it together more than for 10 minutes in that 4th quarter, they'd probably lose that game. Definitely Western Bulldogs didn't win that game. Carlton lost that game. They were just in cruise control. A little bit of a false narrative being painted for Western Bulldogs the last month. They've had a bit of a soft draw and some easy victories against teams that are struggling. I'm all over Adelaide in this one. I think they can get the job done, and maybe I'm buying into the hype, but I'm really impressed with them. And if you give me odds, Pez, of $2.51 for a 50-50 game, I'm taking that, especially with the crowd sort of factor being taken out a little bit. So not at the Dome. You're talking about a weather discrepancy possibly in the cold and the wet, and I love this one for the Crows. So I've gone them to win in a 3-leg same game multi with tab. 1 leg fails, money back in a bonus. So them to win. I've gone a little bit of insurance in plus 41.5. So if the Crows get beaten but not blown out, I get my money back. And then the last one, which I'm a little bit surprised, is $1.14 for Libba to get 20 or more. Considering this year he hasn't missed it and the lowest he's had is 23 disposals, I think that's an absolute bargain, and use that to fill up your multis. Of course, if you have odds of $1.10 and higher, you can include it in your tab and get the money back. So 2 units, $3.
Yep, and I'll just quickly run through mine again. Under 161.5, under 202.5 total game points, and the Western Bulldogs under 85.5. It's $2.44 all up.
All up. Well, good luck to you in a low-scoring affair where the Crows dominate and Libba gets heaps of it, hopefully.
Yeah, we can take that and try and get both of those bets to sail through.
All right, speaking of sailing through, we talk about Fremantle taking on Geelong, and for the game, Fremantle have been renamed. Wallayup. So that's what they're going by for this round and next round. Of course, for the Sir Doug Nicholls Round. So a salute to the Indigenous community.
A massive change in the logo. You can scroll through the AFL app and it's nearly unrecognizable, but it looks really cool, and it's still got the purple color to it. But if you haven't seen it yet, just jump on, I don't know, Google or the AFL Live app on your phone and just have a look at the logo. It'll be interesting to see on the TV on Saturday night as well.
Well, I was looking through. You jump on their website, Wallayup's website, because they've changed all their polos as well. They've put that big name on it. They've rebranded it. There's a story about how they were trying to do it. The idea came about 3 years ago, before Melbourne actually went with NAM, and it's a great story. It's a real good, it's great for the country of, no, it's not the country. It's great for the state of Perth and Fremantle. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, you love to see it. And Sir Doug Nicholls Round is over this round and the next round. So some clubs yet to do it. The clubs that have changed their logo, Port Adelaide and Melbourne, and now Fremantle. So we'll see if any clubs do it next week and when clubs are going to wear their Indigenous jerseys as well.
All right, let's get over to SBS Stadium and go through the odds. So Wallayup are the outsiders, $2.18. Geelong Cats $1.66. Interesting favourites there. -7.5 favourites are the Cats after disappointing week last week. Over under 173.5. I'm really surprised that this one isn't a pick'em. I'm really, really surprised at it, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because you spoke and you alluded to before the show that you were considering Geelong and you've been burnt throughout the year on Geelong. Are you still with the Cats in this one?
Well, the Cats have cost me this season, and cost me units, which is what we fight for every single week. And Geelong losing to Gold Coast and then Geelong losing to Richmond, it's been a big swing for me. So Brad Close comes back in from suspension. Jack Henry comes in, and Tyson Stengel comes in, who I think is an important inclusion in the forward line. Ollie Henry, he goes out with a little bit of an injury, your man, over the last couple of weeks. But if you played this game before last week, before what Fremantle did to Sydney, I think Geelong would have been a lot shorter. So I just really like the value at the $1.66, but I haven't been able to trust Geelong at the line, so I'm not putting anything out there just yet. I just want to wait and see and get a little bit more of a feel for this. And I don't mind Geelong at the line. I don't mind them head-to-head at all, especially if Bluebet have the 12-up special this weekend. I don't mind doing that, because Fremantle have been really disappointing for mine. Have they turned it around? I can't really trust them. Their midfield has improved. Darcy's improved in there. Jackson's been doing that, but they've played against Hawthorn and then they've played against Sydney last week. So I can't trust that form, but I can't trust the form well enough to actually back Geelong with my money tonight. So what's that saying? I don't know.
It's interesting. I'm cautious with this one too. I sort of lean towards Geelong at the $1.66. They've got an 8-day break, so if you're travelling over to Perth, that's probably the best way to travel over on an 8-day break. I do like the value in Atkins. We said this last week. For him to get 15 was sitting last week about $1.50. That's really shortened, but for him to get 20 is still sitting at $1.66. So if you can find something else to top it up,
$1.66.
Him to get 20.
What was he last week from memory?
Last week he was $2.30.
Yeah, that was a good hit.
So that was a really good hit. And I think that the same sort of thing were there. Also, Holmes, he sits at $1.50 for 20 or more. He didn't get it last week. Sort of was not around the pill. So I like those two. And to pick one of those and partner it up with something else, you could possibly go the over or the $1.66 for Geelong to win. I'm steering clear in this one just because I am cautious about it. Fremantle have been a little bit unpredictable. And Geelong, you'd expect them to bounce back, but again, have been inconsistent this year. Let's get on to the Q Clash. Brisbane taking on the Gold Coast. $1.25 favourites are the Lions. $3.85 outsiders the Suns. -24.5 is the line. Over under 175.5. Perry, what are we going to see here from the Q Clash? Gold Coast have been impressive, come off a 2-game winning streak. Brisbane have been ultra impressive and really firmed as one of the premiership favourites. Really interested to hear how Gold Coast can stay competitive, because the last couple of Q Clashes, they have been super competitive and actually winning one early last year.
Yeah, Brisbane do that kind of stuff all the time, don't they? So I hope Brisbane will be focused. They are on a bit of a winning streak at the moment, but they are playing at home at the Gabba. They have a a function for all the women in the club this weekend. So it'll be a really big Saturday night, and then the function. I think it's on Sunday. From what I've been told. So hopefully everyone can enjoy that, but enjoy the win as well. So I think that Brisbane just have to get the job done here against Gold Coast. They're still missing Took Miller. They've played against West Coast, and then who did they beat the week before that?
Who, sorry?
Gold Coast.
Can't remember. Well, you're telling me the stat. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm not telling you a stat. I'm just saying that, West Coast last week. So West Coast, you can't take anything away from that. We saw that with Carlton. Carlton won by 108 points against West Coast, and then came out and kicked 10 in the first half of the next week. So you've got that there. I just think the Lions can't let this one drop. They're too talented. So I've just gone a 3-leg same game multi. I've gone Brisbane minus 8.5. That gives you $1.40. I've gone over 150.5 because nighttime at the Gabba on a Saturday night, I think, both sides will score a bit. So that gives me $1.22. And then this third leg, this is teams against the Gold Coast Suns. When Melbourne played against the Gold Coast Suns, Pickett kicked 2 goals, 0. When Richmond played against the Gold Coast Suns, Richmond only scored 48 points in total and Bolton kicked 1 goal, 2. North Melbourne played against the Suns, Stevenson kicked 2 goals, 0. Fremantle played against the Suns, Walters kicked 4 goals, 1. Saints played against the Suns, Higgins kicked 5 goals, 1. So the small forwards, not the key forwards. I'm going Charlie Cameron, 3+ goals at $2.20. You multi those 3 legs together with the Brisbane minus 8.5 and the over 150.5, it's $3.29.
It's $3.29. That's surprising. I thought that would have been a lot lower considering all the alternatives.
I've lowered the alternatives, yeah.
Well, that's a great value then, especially if it hits the overs and you think it's going to be a high-scoring affair.
It's only great value if it wins.
No, it's great. It's always great value. It's a great value. We just do what TikTok does. It's great value beforehand and only talk about it if it wins. Isn't that the trend?
That's the only thing we don't do on this podcast, which maybe we should.
Value doesn't always mean it's not always great value because you can have sort of unlucky losses, or you can get a read a couple of wrong, or something can happen. But the value is always there when you do your stats, and as you said, there's a range of things there contributing to a win. So great value, good bet. Might as well just give it a tick now. I like it.
I don't know what you're going on about.
Me neither.
What do you see in this one?
What I see in this one, I've really been impressed with Gold Coast, and we know that they're.
You've fallen in love with them again.
Fallen in love with them again. I'm back, but the three of the last 4 they've had wins. They beat Richmond away from Queensland. They should have probably beaten Melbourne with a kick in the last 30 seconds. They beat North Melbourne pretty convincingly, and West Coast. So a couple of soft ones in there, a couple of hard ones. I've gone with Boss Bet because it's a free hit, so I've had a bit of fun with it. I think Brisbane still get the job done, but I like the line of 24.5. So I've gone Brisbane to win, Gold Coast at 24.5. Will Power subbed him in for Fioroni for 20 or more. Since Took Miller's gone out, he's gone over 20 or more. 4 out of the last 7, and I think that his role is really developed. Brisbane give a little bit more away to defenders coming off that back line, so I think he'll collect that 1 unit with Boss Bet, $4.20.
Yeah. Now, if you can't withdraw from Boss Bet, and they don't give you your money back, do these bets count?
Of course they can.
On the pod?
Yeah, they count.
What if they don't give you your money back?
I don't know. I haven't won with Boss Bet yet anyway, so I'll keep donating to their cause.
Your bonus bets.
I think I'm keeping their website alive anyway. It looks like it's been drawn by a 3-year-old with crayon. But anyway, let's get on to the Essendon, or the Dreamtime at the G. Essendon taking on Richmond, $2.28. Outsiders are the Bombers. $1.60 favourites are Richmond. Minus 8.5 is the line. Over under 170.5. This is a great spectacle. Expect 80,000 at the G for this one. Unlike last week's Collingwood game where we predicted over 70 and they got 37. But this will be a huge event. Everything in this one is great. The lights that they end up doing for it is fantastic. It's
the pre-match, great. Yeah, definitely. And they've got the players who've already done some photo shoots outside the MCG. The Richmond players with their Indigenous jerseys as well. So the what's it called when you release them and you show them off a little bit.
Release them.
Release them into the wild.
Well, I know that Essendon have a bird on it. It's not going to fly off them. You're not releasing them.
Release the jumpers. Release them into the wild and let them go.
Your bet, you idiot.
The Bombers have done the same, so it is really good to see with the Indigenous folks there. Now, the last 5 games, and I haven't gone back further than that, so if you can go back further than that, or you can be bothered, have a look at that. But Richmond have won the last 5 against the Bombers here, Sauce. The Bombers struggling. Are they going to be able to pull something off and pull it out of the wire? You have gone hard on the Bombers over the last couple of weeks, especially, putting it out publicly on TikTok saying they're only going to win a few more games for the season when they play the bottom dwellers. Richmond have just shown against Geelong last week. You saw it firsthand. I'm very interested in what you're going here because...
What was just at? Essendon won the last 5.
Richmond
Richmond won the last 10.
Is it the last 10?
The last 10 against them. So dating back to 2006, it's 2016. It's just like Essendon's finals hopes.
Oh.
They have won the last 10. Richmond have absolutely dominated them. And in those 10, there's been one game that's been within 8 points. So the rest of them have been obviously bigger than that.
What an embarrassment of a club. Wow,
you're not hooking me here, mate. But it's they make such a big spectacle about it, and I'm sure the AFL are always talking about do Carlton deserve that first game because they haven't beaten Richmond in so long, and then they do. Do North Melbourne deserve the Good Friday? I'm not going to say it, but you know where I'm alluding to. But last 10 that they've lost against Richmond.
No, they can continue to lose. That'd be good. I've got no bet in this one at the moment, Sauce. So I could throw a same game multi together if there's some bonus specials later in the round. I don't mind Richmond to win in the tipping, but just Essendon's a team you can't really trust. But you've said they're not going to win many more unless they're playing against the really bottom of the barrel.
So they play the bottom dwellers 3 more times. So twice in I think it's West Coast they play twice for the year, and then they play Hawthorn and North Melbourne one more time.
Looking at the ladder, Essendon's percentage is 102.7. They've had 4 wins for the season, Sauce, and I haven't heard an Essendon fan chirp in the last 3 or 4 weeks. The amount of Essendon fans I was hearing, I had a headache for the whole start of the season because they were just going on and on and on and on, and they're just no good.
They're no good, but if they are going to even have a glimpse of being good, this is a good way to start because their next 3 after this look pretty favourable. They play West Coast, they play North Melbourne, and then they play Carlton. And if Carlton are still the team that they've been the last couple of weeks, that will be a great matchup for them. And it's a good way for them to start if they can get over the Tigers. I don't see it happening. I think that the inclusion of Nankervis coming into it and Ruckman, I think that they will play a little bit of bully ball against Essendon. I think that...
Against Draper?
I think Essendon have been competitive. They were competitive against Brisbane through inaccuracy and Brisbane not really taking their opportunities. And when they did, they dominated them. Richmond were really impressive. And maybe it's a once-off, maybe it's an anomaly, I'm not sure. But I like the $1.60. If I was probably going anywhere, I'd be partnering up that with an alternate total points. Expect the game to go over. So that's probably where I'd be leading. But I'm going to steer clear and give the Essendon fans on TikTok a little bit of a break this week.
Give them a break and just not put yourself out there for disaster if Essendon were able to win. Because
Sorry,
you wouldn't be...
I've put myself out there twice and I have not because Essendon are a joke. So I've put it out there twice and both times I've looked amazing after.
Yeah, but you've got crickets.
Yeah, cricket's after.
Yeah.
During, I get a whole lot of keyboard warriors. But anyway, let's head over to Hawthorn taking on West Coast. $1.31 favourites are Hawthorn. West Coast outsiders at $3.46. Minus 22.5 is the line, over under 170.5. Pez. This will be very interested to see if Hawthorn are actually playing or if they're tanking, because I can't see any world where Hawthorn lose this game.
This game is a big game.
It's not. It shouldn't be.
No, but not for the reason you think. So it's 17th versus 18th. They're both on the same amount of wins. Their percentage is really, really close here. Who is the better team at tanking, or are they both going to try and tank? I don't see it happening. I've tipped the Hawthorn in my winners comp, where you have to tip a team to win every round, and you got to get in there. About 250 people left for about 30 grand prize in that one. So I need the Hawks to win this week. I imagine people might be on the Eagles and a lot of people will be on the Hawks. So we'll see how that goes anyway. I think that Hawthorn just have to win this one on talent alone and on list alone, because they haven't rested Bruce this week. He's still in the side. They bring a few back in with Scrimshaw and Reeves and Brockman, and some of these players, they're playing for their career. You look at West Coast ins, Chesser, Long, Bazzo and True. Who? Crickets, exactly. No one's ever heard of him. Jack Darling, He played out the rest of the game when he hurt his arm last week, and they've wrapped it up.
Hurt his arm. He played 3/4 with a freaking broken arm. That's how depleted West Coast are. They could have got someone from the stands out there and would have done the same sort of thing as what he was running around with one arm.
He actually took a mark while he had the broken arm and just
that shows you.
clanked it up.
That shows you how embarrassing it is that they can barely field a side. I feel like that 1 week later in the rounds, it's going to be like rocking up to a Monday night basketball of domestic, and they've got like 3 players there, and they have to walk over.
Can we borrow one of your players to play a scratch match?
Can you turn your jersey inside out so we can have a play? It's a joke, and it's disappointing for West Coast because they don't actually know what direction they're going in, and for them to be as depleted as this is really concerning.
And you watch Tim Kelly try his absolute heart out and just try and win that ball time after time after time. But I've gone a lads same game multi. It's 1 per day, so this is my Sunday one I'm going to use. Hawthorn -9.5 on an alternate line. I've gone James Sicily to get 20 plus. In the last 20 games, he's hit that 18 times. Now, he's the Hawks' best intercept player. And against West Coast side, who will butcher the ball moving forward, I think he might get it. And he also shares the kicking duties with Hardwick and Mitchell as well, Seamus Mitchell from Hawthorn. So he can get a few extra touches there. And then I've gone the total points of West Coast under 74.5. Their highest score in the last 4 weeks has been 69 when they kicked away and kicked 6 in a row against Geelong. So we'll go for there. $2.49, and that will keep me very interested in that Sunday game.
It will. I'm going to keep echoing this. West Coast, anything below -30.5, jump all over. I'm Hawthorn
on the Hawks.
Hawthorn 40 plus, $2.95 with my bonus bet from Ned's. 2 units.
You don't think they're tanking?
No. There's no way they can lose this game. like the only people that want them to tank.
Oscar Allen kicks 10.
Sam Mitchell doesn't want them to tank if he's playing his old side. There's no way. Doesn't want them. Everyone forgets that. They're playing their old side, Sam Mitchell. He doesn't want to tank. The players don't want to tank. Administration want them to tank, but they couldn't come up West Coast at a worse time. They've got barely any players there.
And in Tassie as well.
Doesn't matter.
That advantage is Hawthorn.
40 plus, $2.95. That is absolute bargain. You want something a little bit more safe, jump on the line, stretch that out to probably 39.5. That's a little bit more safe, but 40 plus is amazing. $2.95. Bonus bet.
banging on the Hawks, and then we get to the massive 90,000 at the MCG on a Sunday afternoon.
This is going to be a great game, not only for the position on the ladders first versus an up and coming Carlton. Last 12 years up and coming. We are coming. Carlton 277, outsiders the Blues. Collingwood $1.45, -15.5 is the line. Over under 167.5. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this one. I mean, the stats say that Collingwood should win pretty easy. They have really sort of toyed with their food as of late. They did it against Adelaide. They did it against Sydney for a little bit. Can they lock down Carlton, or is Carlton looking for some redemption from last year?
From last year, maybe from last week or the last month, because Carlton have been pretty horrible. Now, I put my money with Carlton last week against the Bulldogs and back them to do a bounce back. So I'm definitely not doing that again against Collingwood. But it's first versus ninth, and Carlton have played finals from ninth before and had a win in the finals as well. So maybe you could say they're a finals team sitting ninth there. I know Richmond aren't in the Essendon aren't in the 8, and they're not going to get done for drugs or anything. So Carlton,
if Essendon fans weren't already at us, that was a little bit of a jab.
And we just spoke about Sam Mitchell as well, so you go from there.
Here we go.
Carlton play better at the MCG.
Mm-hmm.
They do definitely. Collingwood, I've still got questions about their forward line, but their midfield and their defence and the way they run the ball out and their structure with Craig McRae and how he's going have been absolutely fantastic. So they are missing a key forward, but they're making do at the moment, and I just don't see how this is going to go. What does the live unders say there, Sauce? You've got that on your screen.
The live unders are 167.5.
Oh, I was hoping that was a bit higher. If that's 10 points higher, I'll go the under. So I think it's going to be under about 175. So we'll keep an eye on the line and see if we put anything together on the Sunday for interest. But Nick Dacos again had another perler on the weekend.
He did. I'm I'm all over Carlton in this one, and this is the last chance with Carlton, last chance heroes. I really like the ins for Carlton. Tom DeConing comes in, Zach Fisher comes in. I like that. I think that they'll be able to, if you look at the stats, Collingwood, while sitting pretty on top, they aren't winning a whole lot of stats in comparison to Carlton. Carlton are actually playing very similar sort of footy as them. Marks inside 50, they lead Collingwood. Hit-outs to advantage, they lead Collingwood. Goal accuracy is where they're hugely deficit, so 44% compared to the 49.4 in Collingwood. But I think it's been sitting on their mind all the way from last year. Carlton will kickstart their season from here after the 1 point loss last year in round 23 that not only lost them the game, but cost them a finals berth. I like the value in not just Carlton to win, but the 1-39. So if Carlton win, we know Collingwood will probably come back. Carlton will have a bit of a lead. Surely they have watched the tape over and over again of how to kill the footy, and I'm going with my bonus bet, Pez. Extremely confident with the 1 unit, 3.15 with lads. So bonus bet for 1-39, Carlton.
Wow.
But the last time I back them for the next 6 years. So remember how I killed GWS and where I refused to talk about them again? This is the case for Carlton. I've been their biggest advocate for the last 2 years. I've been all over them. They should be better than they are. This is the last chance, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
You're going to hope people aren't snapping from 50 metres out and actually kick a goal.
Surely after all everything in the media this week has screened them to fix that shit. They can't do that anymore. Voss is under the pump. Collingwood are sitting pretty at the top, but they can afford to drop one here. Not that they will, but I think they dropped their guard. Carlton would have had this circled as of the first week of finals last year.
Look, I hear what you're saying here, but I went to the well. I put my money on the line last week with the Carlton and said Voss cannot be this bad. They didn't really do anything and really change anything. They kicked 6 goals in a row in the third quarter. They got the lead back twice in the fourth quarter and still couldn't hold on against the Bulldogs. They were just so disappointing that I'm just crossed them off for the time being.
I'm a little bit more forgiving. One more time, sneak an upset, start their season from here. And it's a really easy out for me if they lose because I don't have to tip Carlton for the rest of the year. So, speaking of the next game, we have one of the dead teams playing St Kilda. The dead team comes in as 223. The Giants 166 favourites are your Saints. -6.5 is the line. Over under 165.5.
Yeah, another surprising price.
I'm really surprised in this one
for the Saints and the Giants here. The Giants are at home, especially twilight there on a Sunday. Not much else to say. I can't trust the price or the line or anything like that. No 1-39s for me. I've just gone with Tab with the same game multi-special. We know that St Kilda give up the ball to opposition, mids and defenders. So I've gone Kelly to get 30 plus here, Sauce. I've also put him in for 25 because how's this? On Tab, you put Kelly for 30 plus, gives you $1.75. You add 25 plus for the same player, it bumps it up 20 cents to $1.95. So a little bit ridiculous. He's hit 3 of the last.
So ridiculous.
He's hit 3 of the last 9, 30 plus, and the last 4 he's had 27, 34, 27, and 41. Saints give away a lot, as I said. Now Whitfield is another one. Now Whitfield's been kind of forgotten about and kind of like he should be better than he is, but he's still a really good kick and they still use him. So I've got him 20 plus. 8 out of the last 9 games. He hasn't gone under 23 in the last 7 matches, and he's their main kicking taker now. So he's taken over the reins of Isaac Cumming in the last few weeks. So he takes the most kickings for GWS. So if Saints are inaccurate or if Saints actually go forward and kick any score, hopefully he takes a few kickings and he gets, I think he might get 23, 24, 25, something like that. So if Kelly gets 30 and Whitfield gets 20, that'll be me.
I like that bet because you're listening to what we've been saying the last month is go all over Saints and whoever they're playing because the other team just racks it up, almost 60 more disposals than the next team. And if you look at all the teams down the bottom, they're the teams giving up a heap of the pill. You're all over the Giants in terms of possessions. I'm really surprised with the price at -6.5. I'm leaning towards that, but it's a Sunday game. So
towards which way? The Saints?
The Saints. I'm a bit surprised with it. I think that should be an easy victory for the Saints.
I think
GWS.
Membry's going to be out and Max King might come in as well. So that's a big thing to have a target down there with Caminiti.
Yeah, I mean, there's some big ins from both teams already on the extended bench. Toby Green comes in, but he's probably the only big one for GWS. But Jade Gresham, potentially Max King, and Jimmy Webster. That's a long time coming, that name. That's been a while since you heard that one.
Yeah, he's played the start of the year, but he's a small forward specialist. So if Toby Green plays, Jimmy Webster get that job.
Yeah, so I'm a bit surprised, as I said, with the line. I probably will piece something together on Sunday, which will heavily involve a lot of disposals for GWS because St Kilda just give it up, and I'll probably take the result out, put 3 legs together. Maybe I've got a bonus bet sitting there. Hopefully not, but if not, I'll find somewhere with Neds or lads and just pump up the 20s and 25s. In
saying that, that's a good point because this is a watch game. Yeah, because the live markets come out. They're not even out for the Friday night game. No. The over-under disposals for different players. We don't ever get to talk about it on the podcast, but we can include it in our live bets because it comes, I don't even know how many hours it comes before the game, but it's usually on the day of the game where it comes out and it gives a player a line. Like you had Jordan Dawson last week over 26.5 and it was easy money and it's usually around $1.90. So keep an eye out for some of those from GWS on Sunday. Yeah, be all over players like Josh Green, Josh Kelly, Tom Green, Stephen Canelio. They'll be very highly... well, I'm looking at the wrong year, so that's probably no good, is it? Well, I'm glad I read the email anyway earlier in the week from the administration of Behind the Boundary, and you're in charge of the cheeky this week. So what did you come up with?
I'm glad that I thought that you had not come to the table and saw you were unprepared to begin with. So while we were talking, I haven't put down a cheeky, but I've just put together the lines that I like. -6.5 for the Saints, Carlton 15.5. I think that's a great line. Hawthorn to -22.5. I spoke about that. I have spoken about that, and we'll continue to speak about that all the way through against West Coast, and Adelaide a +10.5. That gives me odds of 13 and 3 cents. You can power play that up to a $15 mark. Put a cheeky 10 on that one, and you will be loving it.
Cheeky!
Don't do it.
All right, I might walk away from the podcast now. But make sure you jump onto all our socials where we have all of our bets. We have our spreadsheet, which shows the record for this year. Where you'll see that I'm in the green and Pez is still in the green for now. And we don't have it up there, but you can see our stats from the last 6 years. If you scroll through Twitter, last 6 years, all profit. Make sure you jump on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all good podcast providers. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us some comments. It helps other punters find us.
If you've made it this far, welcome to all the new listeners. We've seen on the downloads there, but at Behind the Bound on Twitter to get access to the Google Doc spreadsheet where you can see what we've posted, and then get involved on TikTok. If you've got TikTok, just at Behind the Bound. Get involved in some of the banter because it is very entertaining. I'm not talking about the video source. I'm talking about the comments section because after the fact, if the game wins, you usually see not too much going on, like, oh, yeah. But if it loses, people just go, you should have bet this, you should have bet this, you should have bet this, because it's so easy in hindsight to bet.
Keyboard warriors are the best, and it's even better when they do it before the game. Like, that's a terrible bet. And then just crickets when it gets up.
I did have to mention this, actually. There's been a few people who've actually put stuff down beforehand, which is great. And I think we might need to do this, Sauce, because if we did this, it'd be fantastic. People that put down their bets on the comments, I've got to start screenshotting them, because when they lose, you know what they do?
They don't delete it.
They delete it.
What?
Yeah, because
accountability. That's what you want.
I had a notification, and some bloke goes, "Hey, never bet on Jack Darling for 2+ goals on the West Coast Suns video," and then the bloke that commented has just deleted it. So no accountability for the folks on TikTok down there. So you can say whatever you want, and then if it doesn't work, delete it. If it does work, you look like a bloody superstar. So how easy is that?
He should put that comment up this week, because he won't kick 2 goals this week.
No, and I don't think you can bet on it either, mate. No.
The over/under. None under. Anyway, that's been the podcast. Enjoy the round. I've been Sauce. We'll catch up next time.
That's throwing me off. You can't
why not?
You can't be doing that shit. I'm Pez. Peace out.